So guys, if you love the new Mercurial and want to know what the deal is, of course you can go and watch the tech talk or the review. But if you want to go even deeper, well, we need to speak to someone who actually developed the product. And that's why I've come to Berlin to speak to someone with very deep tech knowledge. And that man with the deep knowledge is Collin Eder. Collin, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course.
I've been looking forward to this. You know, it's always nice to have like the boots spread out on the table, talk components, but also go a little bit deeper into the concept behind the boots. But just so we all understand, can you just give us like the recipe for this brilliant, good tasting piece of cake?
All right, so Zoom has been used in basketball shoes and running shoes, and we've had it in football boots before, but never specifically for football. So this is our Zoom unit, specifically for football for the first time. It took us 2.5 years. Couple things to notice, very, very thin, right? It needs to be thin for stability to keep that athlete low to the ground, but it also has to pack a punch, right? So responsiveness is important. We've actually tested this whole system with this Zoom unit against our old Mercurial, and it's more responsive. Needs to be right for running 90 minutes. So that's why it's 3/4 length. You've seen some concepts that are full length. This is 3/4 length just for that transition so that you have a nice smooth transition when you run. And we've got welded lines specific to how the foot moves, how it undulates. So this is the big, it's small, but this is the big piece that really brings the new Zoom Mercurial to life. Right? How this works is that it is strobled into the boot. So really cool. Some components and pieces over here, but you can kind of see here when you take off the upper how you're right on top of the Zoom unit, which is pretty sweet.
It's basically a part of the sole itself, right?
Yes, which is a big difference from where we've done Zoom in the past, where you've had basically layers upon layers that have sandwiched that Zoom together. So you might not have been able to activate it like you can activate this, which is really different, really unique, okay? So very cool there. The stud tips, very different, right? So TriStar, so Chevron was all about north and south. Really, really good. It's been working for a long,
Just
long
like
time.
one straight line.
Yes, but players need to be able to cut and move in different directions. And we did a lot of actually simulations in the lab and using some FEA analysis to look at different stud shapes and angles that could improve stopping, cutting, lateral direction. That's where the TriStar stud has come in. So you're gonna get that penetration, which is important, but you're gonna be able to start, stop, change direction. So combine that with the Zoom unit, a really lightweight frame, and you get the engine of the boot, which is pretty cool. So this is the final article when it kind of comes out before it gets lasted onto the boot. But there's a lot of pieces that go into this. If any one of these pieces doesn't work or is in the wrong position or is heated up too much, the boot can become too stiff or it becomes too loose. So the first piece is the speed cage. Very, very light, very, very minimal, and it's inspired off of a Roman sandal. We actually did multiple sports all at the same time to test where they need lockdown. So basketball, running, cross-training, and football. No surprise to you and I, football needed the most lockdown out of any sport. Hey, let's just put the straps where you need it, the support where you need it, and nowhere where you don't. Another very important piece is one of the two meshes that we use. So unbelievably lightweight, but very soft.
Spongy, right?
Very spongy, that's a great word for this. This provides a lot of that comfort and loft, right? So a big change from the previous Mercurial to this one, we feel is that comfort and softness in the upper. How that boot will shape to your foot a little bit better than the past one. Since 2014, we've been using Flyknit. Footballers love it, but this just really provides adaptability, right? So it really just starts to hug the top of the foot and the ankle and adapts to varieties of foot shapes. The second mesh we have, we engineered this ourselves. All right, this is the top level mesh or the top layer, and you'll start to see the different grooves or undulations that you feel within the material, right? And that's just this micro texture that you're gonna get for a little bit of extra grip when you're controlling the ball. Comfort is important for the athlete, right? It's not always something that we shout about or we talk a lot about, but it's something that every single athlete wants to have. And if we can make something a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more form-fitting to the foot, that's a huge win for the athlete.
How big of a headache was it to get this right for football?
It was hard.
When I heard of the Zoom airbag for the first time in a Mercurial, I thought that's not necessarily what I would associate with speed.
Yeah.
So how did you go about taking an element that was traditionally a comfort element and transform it into something that was wired for speed?
Yeah, so how we did that is a lot of testing and iterations with a lot of different prototypes. So actually within this whole process, around 15 substantial prototypes went into testing and refining. To say we got it right on the first try would be an absolute lie. Like, there were some challenges, some big time challenges, because you're trying to make sure that the studs are placed on the right place on the Zoom bag so that you're activating the Zoom bag and that you're actually getting that benefit of that responsiveness. So a lot of it was shape, a lot of it was height, a lot of it was, hey, how is this going to work and be protected, say, when water gets into the boot? That was a big thing that's totally different from basketball and other products. So we had to make sure that it was sealed and tight. So a ton of testing over 2.5 years to just test, refine, and validate. It's not perfect, you know? No football boot is ever gonna be perfect, but we're gonna strive for perfection.
And the funny thing is that this, I mean, you said it yourself, we've seen Zoom Air in football boots before. It goes all the way back to 1996 in the Air Rio, but it was very different what it did back then. Can you just take me through the changes of the older Zoom units compared to this one?
How they were built into the football boot was very different. So you had the plate, right? Then you would put the puck in, right? Then you would put another strobel material, pretty hard, over the top. Arguably, you weren't really activating that Zoom bag, maybe ever so slightly. When you're sitting directly on top of this, you're actually really activating the Zoom bag. And that's the secret. You want to make sure that you're actually springing and then exploding off of it. And how it's constructed, how it's built, is just as important as the Zoom unit itself.
I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I felt that with at least the Vapor 12, 13, 14, there was a bit of a shift going with slightly more width in the Mercurials, a little bit of an approach of making them more comfortable, appealing to more players. How do you do that and still maintain, you know, the Mercurial DNA? That special feeling that I would say only Mercurial can give you.
Yeah, that's a good question. So here's what I would say what we strive to do, right, is we haven't changed necessarily the last or the shape of like what we're building the boot around, but what we have changed is how the materials adapt to the foot.
Right.
I think that's probably the biggest change that you have with the new Mercurial, is that they're more softer, malleable materials that will shape and stretch more. Now, what they should do, because of the speed cage, they shouldn't overstretch, right? It should keep a pretty consistent shape for those that have a more narrow foot. But yes, because the materials give a little bit more, and especially a little bit more out of the box, someone with a little bit more of a wider foot is now going to be able to wear Mercurial. Perhaps those that couldn't in the past because it was maybe a little too stiff or a little too tight. But to maintain that within the concept of a speed boot, you want to make sure that we're always not trying to make the lightest boot possible. If we wanted to, we could probably do that. You want to just make sure you maintain some elements of a speed boot that are critical. So it needs to be the right weight. It just needs to feel light when the player is wearing it. It needs to feel form-fitting and snug and give you that confidence, that stability that you're locked in, which we feel the different components in the packages and the engine all working together kind of do that. So yes, it's a little bit more accommodating. It's a lot more different feet. But we see that as a good thing, as it stretches to different shapes of feet, different sizes.
You know, being the devil's advocate, will this just be, you know, the flavor of the month or the year and then be scrapped after 2 years when you need to innovate again to create some hype? Or what's the deal here? What's the play?
We're gonna keep rolling with this because it isn't perfect, but it's got a ton of opportunities to how we're gonna change and create speed boots for the future. So it's gonna stay. It's gonna continue to refine and innovate. The team's working on the next one right now. So we need feedback. We need to know kind of what is good with this current one and where we need improvements. We wanna hear the good and we wanna hear the bad. But this is an innovation that we feel like has like opened a door and unlocked a new way to bring speed to footballers.
Are you ever afraid you'll try something ridiculously crazy and you'll take it too far and screw things up?
No. My mentality is the same as the rest of the team, is that we'd rather go for it, right? And take a chance. And if you fail, the reality is you're gonna learn something and you're gonna be able to make a better football boot next time. If you look at what we've done in football over the years, that's been our DNA.
Yeah.
To really push, to really try some new things. Again, to make football exciting. We're here to serve the athletes and to inspire the athletes to want to play. So if we're safe, if we're just doing what we always did, then we would be creating the same boots like we did, 40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here. And sure, there have been misses, right? But there have also, there's been steady progress over the years. And again, 17 generations in, it wouldn't be fun to wear the Mercurial R9s still today.
I don't think so. A little stiff.
A little stiff. But you have all these awesome innovations. They work.
Yeah.
But the big piece on this boot is in the tooling. It sits inside the boot, and to really understand it, you have to try it. At least that was my experience.
Yeah.
How do you tell the story about the brilliance, frankly, of this innovation as a brand?
Put it really bold on the boot. I would say, in seriousness though, I think what we try to do is draw you in with the upper in terms of what you're going to look at, but you can actually see the Zoom bag underneath there too. Also, you can kind of see it when you take out the sock liner, but you're right, it is an underfoot innovation, but I think it's something that we're pretty confident when players and athletes are going to wear it, that they're going to really love it.
Here's an inside tip. Collin, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Always.
Always enjoyed. So that was some pretty deep tech knowledge. We're talking Mariana Trench levels of deep tech knowledge. But guys, what do you actually think of the new boots? Well, as always, let me know in the comment section right down below. And remember that if you want to buy it, you can do it from your friendly neighborhood boot pusher Unisport in the link right over there. Of course, also, if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to the channel with the notifications on. And remember that if you like learning how to improve as a footballer, the playlist right down there is worthy of a watch. So go do that after you bought the boots. And with those words, I'll be signing off. Cheerio.